More than 120 clips of newly declassified nuclear tests have been posted to YouTube to immortalize the historic footage online. Operations physicist is meticulously scanning films of devastating detonations captured by United States military researchers between 1945 and 1962. As well as saving the footage before the film is stored on deteriorates, nuclear scientists are using the scanned footage to improve weapons simulations. The U.S. military hasn't conducted a nuclear test since 1992, now preferring to use computer simulations to calculate the impact of newly developed weapons. It's been 25 years since the last nuclear test, and computer simulations have become our virtual test ground, but those simulations are only as good as the data they're based on, said lead researcher Dr Gregg Spriggs, a weapons physicist at the federal Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, LLNL, in Livermore, California. Accurate data is what enables us to ensure the stockpile remains safe, secure and effective without having to return to testing. Data collected using the decades-old footage has shown that original estimates about the yield of the explosions was 20 to 30% off. It has allowed researchers to get a more accurate measure of each fireball's growth and better determine the test's yields to improve modern simulations. Dr Spriggs and his Lawrence Livermore team posted 62 newly declassified atmospheric nuclear test videos to YouTube this week. Clips include footage of nuclear test Nutmeg detonated on a barge in the Pacific Ocean as part of Operation Hardtrack in May 1958. A video of the U.S. military's Turk test also features, which was detonated in the Nevada desert as part of Operation Teapot in March 1955. Clips of tests from Operations Harlem, Bighorn and Dominic, all detonated on U.S. soil in the 1960s, were also uploaded by the team. Between 1945 and 1962, the United States conducted more than 1,054 nuclear arms tests. With several cameras to capture each detonation, the tests yielded roughly 10,000 recordings which have since been left to be slowly decay in high-security vaults. The Lawrence Livermore researchers have spent 5 years restoring 6,500 videos in an attempt to preserve nuclear test footage. We've received a lot of demand for these videos, and the public has a right to see this footage, Dr. Spriggs said. Not only are we preserving history, but we're getting much more consistent answers with our calculations. The latest batch is the second the team have posted online after the first was uploaded in March, taking the total number of videos to 125. They have scanned 4,200 films so far, and 750 have been declassified, with the remaining set to be published as they are scanned and approved for public release. Many of the film canisters retrieved by the team have sat unopened for decades. You can smell vinegar when you open the cans, which is one of the byproducts of the decomposition process of these films, Dr. Spriggs said in an interview in March. The data that we're collecting now must be preserved in a digital form, because no matter how well you treat the films, no matter how well you preserve or store them, they will decompose. Decades ago, analysts manually went through the footage using a tool called a cotograph to enlarge the image on a single frame, shine it onto a grid, and measure the fireball and shockwave. Now, with the help of modern technology and software experts, the team has developed tools to automate many of the processes, including determining the frame rate of each camera. The new effort has revealed major discrepancies in the numbers collected by 20th century scientists, indicating that many of the original analyses are wrong. When you go to validate your computer codes, you want to use the best data possible, Dr. Spriggs said. We were finding that some of these answers were off by 20, maybe 30%. That's a big number for doing code validation. One of the payoffs of this project is that we're now getting very consistent answers. We've also discovered new things about these detonations that have never been seen before. New correlations are now being used by the nuclear forensics community. For example, the United States conducted over 1,000 nuclear tests from 1945 to 1992. A still from the Castle Union test in 1954 is pictured of the bunch. Over 200 tests were atmospheric, meaning they are carried out in the atmosphere, being dropped from airplanes, detonated on barges or islands, or being buried at a shallow depth to create a surface-breaking crater. The first atmospheric test took place on July 16, 1945 in New Mexico, on what was then the Alamogordo bombing range, according to a report from the U.S. Department of Energy. And, between June 1946 and November 1962, both atmospheric and underground tests were conducted in the Marshall Islands, Christmas Island, Johnston Atoll in the Pacific Ocean, and over the South Atlantic Ocean. Codenamed Castle Bravo, the size of the event expectations, leading to radioactive fallout. This traveled to the nearby inhabited atolls of Rongelup and Utrecht and led to the evacuation of 253 people from the two islands for medical care. While some returned to Utrecht just a few months later, the inhabitants of Rongelup did not return until 1957, and they later chose to leave again. The catastrophic test prompted many to call for the ban of atmospheric testing. After 1962, all nuclear tests in the U.S. were conducted underground, many of which took place at the Nevada test site.